had, I think, a perfectly normal childhood. I, I wasn't abused, nothing rotten happened to me. I can't complain about the way I grew up. Um, I just grew up and I used food. It was my first port of call. Skipping forward many years, how did I come to OA? I moved to Massachusetts. After New York, I went to Pennsylvania for school, and from Pennsylvania to California for work, and then I came back to Massachusetts. And we moved to a portion of Massachusetts where Overeaters Anonymous was very strong. This was in the mid to late 80s. And my girlfriend at the time, now wife, also discovers Overeaters Anonymous and says, "You gotta go." I'm not real good at being told what to do, but I went. And I picked up a food plan, which I started using, and at the time I weighed 254 pounds, and I lost 77 pounds very quickly. I was struck abstinent, by which I mean I picked up the food plan, I did it, I never varied from it, and I lost all the weight I needed to do. But that's all. I went to 1 or 2 meetings a week. I didn't get a sponsor. The mention of the word God basically sent shivers up my spine. I grew up in New York as my parents were agnostics. My father was a Holocaust survivor in that his family escaped from Germany. And I think he grew up a little bit with a blame the victim kind of mentality, which sort of transferred onto me. So I had no religious faith, and I certainly had no spiritual concept of anything spiritual. I'm an engineer by training, and I tend to look at things rigorously. And so I walked into the rooms of OA, and I'm going, they say take what you want and leave the rest. I'm leaving most of it, and I'm taking the food plan. And I did that. I didn't have a sponsor. I'd read from time to time, not much, but from time to time. And I really didn't adopt the program. When we moved out of the Cambridge area in Massachusetts, slightly west, I went to an OA meeting there, and it was completely different in Cambridge. Now, to show you exactly how sick I was, I didn't accept what the Cambridge OA had to offer. I rejected so much of it, but when I moved to this new area where the OA was different, in my head it was, well, this isn't like the OA I knew, I'm going to reject that too. And I basically walked away from the program. And at the time I was doing quality engineering work, and I'm thinking to myself, all right, I'm an engineer, I just taken this big process control course, and I said, what I'll do is I'll weigh myself like I do, once a month, and if my weight goes too low, I'll eat more, and if my weight goes up too high, I'll eat less. I'll just manage it that way. The weight went up, it never came down. I ended up, over a course of 14 years that I was out of the program, putting on a bunch of weight. I ended up at 306 pounds in, I think it was May of 2002, I saw my doctor. And I should say, in the interim, she sent me once to a nutritionist, because I asked for help from my doctor. She sent me to a nutritionist who I have to say was quite overweight and didn't really impress me. And she gave me the food pyramid. She didn't tell me anything I didn't know already about what I'm going to call, for want of a better term, conventional food management. And I was polite, and I left, and I lost all the material she gave me because I knew she didn't understand what I did with food. Some time passes, and I went to my doctor. I really wanted her to put me on some sort of meds, but she wanted to send me to Massachusetts General Hospital for some sort of weight loss program. I don't know what it was. I don't know if she wanted to send me for bypass. I don't know if it was behavioral therapy. I don't know if it was voodoo, hypnosis. I have no idea. what it was. But for some reason, I had the willingness in that meeting with my doctor when I weighed in at 306 pounds to say, you know what, I want to try something else. I didn't tell her what. I just told her I wanted to try something else. And I went home and I went into my dresser drawer, and in a faded purple folder, I had the food plan that I'd had 14 years before. In a cupboard in the kitchen, I had an old spring scale that I'd had years before. And I pulled out the scale and I pulled out the food plan and I started weighing and measuring my food again. In OA, there are lots of different food plans, but, and I need to say this, I am talking about me. Anything I say is what I do. It's my opinion. If I accidentally say the word we, I don't mean we, I mean I. I speak for myself. So I started doing that, and a little bit, and I thought a little bit about going back to OA and going back to meetings, but it took something else to happen. I had been doing Tai Chi for a number of years, which when you're 306 pounds, Steve, that's exercise. I would do this slow Tai Chi, and I'd wear shorts and a t-shirt, and I would be dripping wet at the end of this. And this was a slow form of Tai Chi. Over the summer, there was no class, so I said, okay, I'll take gentle yoga. After the first class, I woke up the next day, I couldn't move. That week, I was supposed to spend that week with my daughter going to water parks, and I couldn't move. I spent every day at the chiropractor's office getting an adjustment. By then, I was, however, using this food plan. I couldn't go to the water parks, and then I couldn't go on the fun rides anyway. They had a 250-pound weight limit, and I was 300 pounds. That's when I decided that I would look up an OA meeting on the web, and so I went to OA.org, and I looked up a meeting, and I found my anonymity was precious to me, so I was afraid of bumping into anybody I knew. So I found a meeting that was close enough to work that I could get to work on time, but far enough from home that I didn't stand a chance of meeting anybody I knew. And I walked into a room. There were, besides being powerless over food, I'm powerless over counting people. And there were 21 people in the room. I know, I can picture that room today. I know the people who were in that room, who still come to that room, and I know the faces of the people who are not there. I was one of 3 men of 21 people. And the effect of an OA meeting came to me. I remembered the rhythm of it. I remembered the things that were said. But I walked into that room that time different than the first time I walked into an OA room, because I was beat. I was beat. You know, our first step says, you know, that we're powerless over food and that our lives have become unmanageable. I didn't understand the unmanageable part, but I was powerless over food. You know, I was in my 40s. I was 300 pounds. By then, maybe less than that, because I've been weighing and measuring my food, but I was just beat. I was absolutely beat. So I didn't say anything, except when they called for newcomers, I introduced myself and I got the welcome. And when they called for sponsors, where I wasn't willing to have a sponsor before, I was willing to have a sponsor this time. And I went up to someone who I later found out was the age my mother would be if she was alive. We won't go into analysis on that, but and I proceeded to tell her exactly what I was going to do. Usually you ask your sponsor what they do and how they got it, but I told her what I was going to do, and you know, this very wise and perceptive woman knew that I was in a fragile place, and I was not in a place where I was going to get told what to do. But since what I wanted to do was in fact more rigid than what she would have asked me to do, you know, that was okay. And you know, so I started calling in my food to her every day, and you know, things were going good. I was losing weight at a rapid rate. You know, when you're that heavy, you know, men are very lucky. We lose weight very quickly. I was easily losing 20 pounds a month at the beginning. but I started to cheat. I wasn't struck abstinent. I started to cheat. I started to cheat. It's as simple as that.